ESPN Radio and ESPN News. 250-plus markets across the United States of America, from New York to L.A. and every place in between. Check your local AM/FM dial, plus ESPN Radio on Sirius XM Channel 80, plus ESPN Radio simulcast over the live national television airwaves of ESPN News. Number to call up, as always, is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. By the way, the Stephen A. Smith Show is being brought to you by Peloton. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. It's time for Straight Talk, brought to you by Straight Talk Wireless. Best phones, best networks, no contracts. Lots of stuff to get into today. Week 2 of the NFL playoff weekend, 2019, based off of the 2018 season. It's scheduled to take place this weekend. 4 games that we'll be paying attention to, obviously, because the final 8, that's what it's down to. The New England Patriots will host the Los Angeles Chargers. Obviously, the Kansas City Chiefs will be hosting the Indianapolis Colts. New Orleans will be hosting Philadelphia, the reigning defending Super Bowl champions, on Sunday and Saturday night in Los Angeles, California. A game that I will attend. To all you Cowboy fans out there that are looking forward to getting on everybody's last damn nerve, the Dallas Cowboys will visit the Los Angeles Rams at the LA Coliseum. I can't wait for that. I will be there. I'll be in attendance. Obviously, we've got those games to talk about. Obviously, we saw Kyle Kuzma drop 41 for the Los Angeles Lakers last night in 3 quarters, mind you. And the Los Angeles Lakers win over the Detroit Pistons. That's something to talk about because I got news for you, Laker fans. With that win last night, I have very, very bad news for you. I have very, very bad news for you Laker fans out there. And it's directly based off of the explosion from Kyle Kuzma last night. I'll explain what I'm talking about in just a few minutes. But before I go into any of that, the first order of business that I feel obligated to address is the New York Jets have a new head coach. His name is Adam Gase. Congratulations to all of you out there who are so excited. My response to that would be, first of all, Adam Gase, congratulations. I don't wish unemployment on anybody. I don't wish for anybody to be unemployed. And not collecting a paycheck to help take care of their families and pay their bills and all of that other stuff. But as we sit here and we're talking about football, just tell me something. What the hell is there to be excited about? I challenge anybody to tell me that. I challenge anybody out there in the National Football League to tell me, why should Jets fans be excited? You know, I got a brother in L.A., high school buddy. His name is Jeff Brown. Like a brother to me. I often tease him because my godchildren, Nicholas and Nicole, 2 of the most wonderful children in the world, because him and his wife Nina have done such a phenomenal job as parents. I love those kids. I love them with all my heart. And I look at Jeff often and I say, how could you do this to them? How could you have your kids so loyal, raising them to be so loyal? His 2 favorite teams, the Mets in baseball and the Jets in football. How could you do that to a child? Outside of that, Jeff Brown is the most perfect father in the world. But how in God's name could you have my godchildren as Mets and Jets fans? I mean, you're raising them to be losers. Now, I say that to say this. I'm trying to be nice here because I genuinely like Mike Maccagnan. And I'm going to miss Todd Bowles. I'm not blaming the history that is the New York Jets on them. They've contributed to it lately, no doubt, because you are what your record says you are. But ultimately, the history, the moribund history of the New York Jets as a franchise, I think has contaminated everybody. Ladies and gentlemen, I've never met the man. But Manish Mehta of the New York Daily News, I think does outstanding work. I would encourage everybody to read him. I think he does an outstanding job for the New York Daily News. I'm going to tell you right now, yesterday, Manish Mehta was contaminated. There's like this plague going on around New York City, evidently, where some people have been touched and contaminated by gangrene, who doesn't deserve the nickname gangrene because there is nothing about them that has been gang-like. I I mean, think about it for a second, Jonathan. Look at me, my producer, Jonathan Winter, when I'm talking to you. Look at me, Nuno. Look at me, Kat. Do you understand that even though to some people it might come with a negative connotation, do you know what a gang implies? A gang implies togetherness, unity, but also not for the most, dare I say, favorable or pleasant causes. And they actually strike fear in people. When have the New York Jets struck fear in anybody else in recent memory? When has that happened? When? When has it happened? Stop calling them gangrene. It's an insult to gangs. It's an insult. They strike fear in people. They're formidable. You have a reason to be a bit reticent and have trepidation and apprehension about a gang. Stop calling them gangrene. What have they done? What have they done? I mean, I'm sitting here today, and it's Adam Gase as the new head coach for the New York Jets, and I'm sorry, I'm just not moved. I understand why he wears his hat so low, hiding his damn eyes. You know why? Because maybe you might not know who the hell he is. Because what has he done? Now, I am not saying that the man can't coach. He did coach the Dolphins to playoffs in his first season. They did go to 10-6. Now, they regressed and went 6-10 the following year. And in this past year, what were they, 7-9? This guy is supposed to be, John, correct me if I'm wrong, some quarterback whisperer and some innovative offensive mind. The last 2 years in Miami, they ranked 28th and 26th respectively in 17 and 18 in points, 25 and 31 in yards. Now, lo and behold, you listen to Adam Gase, and you know what he's saying, right? What you looking at me for? It's about injuries. It's about injuries. That's all it's about. It's about injuries. That's what he's saying. Frank Gore got injured. Albert Wilson got injured. Hakeem Grant got injured. Josh Sitton got injured. A.J. Derby got injured. I get it. Ryan Tannehill wasn't healthy the entire season. I get it. Adam Gase even made a case for himself, pointing out how they were 3-0 until the injuries happened. Last time I checked, injuries were a part of football. Last time I checked, it wasn't an excuse for anybody else. So I don't want to come across, and I want to be careful here, because I'm not trying to come across by saying Adam Gase can't coach. Adam Gase doesn't deserve a job. I'm trying to say it's New York. It's the Jets. New Yorkers have been starving for something to be hopeful about and enthused about for quite some time. When Rex Ryan first arrived on the scene, it was back-to-back AFC Championship games. When Bill Parcells arrived on the scene, it was a trip to the AFC Championship game. Outside of that, Herm Edwards took you to the playoffs a couple of times. But you knew they weren't going to do anything. If Vernie Testaverde doesn't go down, forcing my man Keyshawn Johnson to slam his hands on a podium, damn it, after telling the world he wanted the damn ball because he was looking forward to Testaverde getting him the ball, and then suddenly he gets hurt and the season's a wash and Super Bowl aspirations go down the drain. I mean, last time I checked, injuries are always a part of it. So what you do is you have a guy here that you have now brought in who has said, look, if it wasn't for injuries, I'd have been fine. The problem is injuries happen every week in the NFL. So if that's what he's saying, what hope is there? That the Jets go get on the field and suddenly they ain't gonna have any injuries? This is the reason that New York Jets fans should be excited. Really? Really? I mean, this is unbelievable. All of this stuff. And I mean, the Jets just, Mike McCarthy could go someplace and, we didn't want him and we really wanted this dude Kingsbury. All right? The Bachelor. That's what I'm going to call him for now. The Bachelor. By the way, as an aside, Mr. Kingsbury, that woman that you're dating, I think she works at Fox, Holly Saunders. Way to go, bro. I can't knock you for that. I mean, is that the kind of level of productivity you planning on bringing to the Arizona Cardinals? Y'all might win the Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? Way to go. But I digress. My point is, he's a football coach. There is no reason to be excited about one single hire that took place in the last 24 hours. I mean, Bruce Arians, I'm not counting him. Vic Fangio, I'm not counting him. To me, those dudes are qualified and they deserve the opportunities that they got. Got questions about Gase. Who the hell was kicking down anybody's door to chase him? And the Jets are grabbing him like, oh my God, there's no tomorrow. We got to get him now. We can't lose him. Really? Really? Why? Is there something about Miami that should have moved us that we have seen that was so riveting that we have to get him? Adam Gase, he has to be gotten. Really? We can't miss out on him. Really? Did we see Ryan Tannehill developing anything in his tenure? Isn't he the guy that decided that Jay Cutler could do some things for them? Wasn't that Adam Gase that did that? A matter of fact, that's how he got the Miami job. Because he had Jay Cutler in Chicago and supposedly did such a good job with Jay Cutler. And when did that happen? Jay Cutler is an athlete. He has a rifle of an arm. But he never looked like he gave a damn. He never looked like he even wanted to be there. Speak to some of his teammates. He's no leader. No leader. But Adam Gase got rave reviews. Why? Because he worked with Jay Cutler and it was productive. And this guy Kingsbury, same thing. Under 500. Losing record at Texas Tech. Goes to USC as an offensive coordinator. And before he had a chance to pass gas or go to Roscoe's for chicken and waffles, this dude is a National Football League head coach. When are y'all going to look at yourselves? When are you going to look at yourselves? I can literally make an argument right here, right now, John. Right here on national television and national radio. Kingsbury got the job because he's a good-looking dude. And they thought he's camera friendly. I can literally make that argument. There is no justification for him to be a head coach in the National Football League. And I'm sorry if that comes across as too negative to Kingsbury because I'm not rooting against him. And it ain't his fault. So many people would have taken the opportunity that he has taken. I understand. It's not his fault. But I'm saying, where's the criteria? Where is the criteria? What did he do to be a head coach? Because obviously the hiring of Kingsbury made it easier for the Jets to hire Adam Gase. Adam Gase has been a coordinator in the NFL. He's been an assistant coach in the NFL. He's worked his way up through the ranks in the NFL. He was an NFL head coach in Miami, albeit unproductive over the last 2 years, in his estimation, primarily due to injury. But if you're the New York Jets, and this dude that looks like he belongs on The Bachelor, whose best decision-making, it appears, comes to when he's dating, which cannot be the same about his decision-making when it comes to football, because as a head coach, he wasn't winning on the collegiate level. And somehow, some way, you're a head coach in the National Football League. Oh, by the way, John, correct me if I'm wrong. Isn't it with 4 years? A 4-year deal with a 5th-year option. I mean, my God, I just don't know what to say. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really, really thinking about my future in this business. I'm JC, John, I work too hard. The hours that I put in, the work that I have to do, having brain farts and brain freezes because I work so much. I mean, I'm here trying to win. First Take is a huge success. The radio show's going well. What am I doing? Evidently, that's not the criteria. Let me go to where Michael Jackson went, lighten my hue, my pigmentation to such degree, lower my voice, have a mediocre record, make sure my girl is fly, and I too can become an NFL head coach. I mean, that's what we saying. That's what we saying. And then the Arizona Cardinals, with their pathetic selves, had the audacity, the unmitigated gall to try and troll me, of all people, on Twitter. Tried to troll me. You know somebody up there need to be drug tested. Evidently, you don't know. You don't know who the hell you messing with. I live for this. You gonna troll me? You hired a coach that's 5 games under 500, who don't have anything but his looks and the person he's dating going for him. Until you hired him as your head coach, and you gonna try to troll me? You done lost your ever-loving mind. Now, for those that are wondering what I'm talking about, let me do what the Arizona Cardinals evidently failed to do. Let me throw myself on a sword. A few weeks back, I went on the air and I had a brain freeze. Because while I was talking on the air, I was working on my laptop. I was previewing the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Kansas City Chiefs games on Thursday Night Football in Kansas City, scheduled for that night. I was in D.C. I was working on a couple of NBA stories while I was also looking on my laptop reviewing last year's game at Arrowhead Stadium between the Chargers and the Chiefs. And I started talking about guys like Hunter Henry and others that had played in the game last year, alluding to right now because I had a brain freeze and I was thinking about last year's contest instead of that. When you're multitasking and stuff like that, it happens. No excuse. That's on me. Got to be more thorough, and I slipped. Period. My mistake. Mea culpa. No doubt. Same thing that happened to me this morning when I did Steven's A-list, and I didn't even have Drew Brees in my top 5. Of course I wasn't thinking about Drew Brees because to me he's number 1. All I cared about with my list, because I was having fun, was making sure Nick Foles wasn't on it, because I'm tired of everybody leaning on the miracle man. Let's see what he does in New Orleans this weekend. But anyway, not to digress, the Arizona Cardinals with a K, y'all, by the way, not a C now. They put the K's in the Cardinals. The Arizona Cardinals with a K because it's Kingsbury country now. Decide to troll me about Hunter Henry and all of that other stuff. You got to be kidding me. Do you have any idea who you messing with? Bring it. I can't wait. Y'all pathetic selves. 3-13, didn't give Wilkes much talent to work with, used him as a scapegoat, firing him after 1 year, and then you didn't even have the decency to go out and hire somebody with a better resume. Now, having said all of that, my apologies to Mr. Kingsbury, because it's not his fault. I'm sure he works hard. I'm sure he knows football. I'm sure he knows a thing or two about quarterbacks, having worked with Johnny Manziel, Baker Mayfield, and all of these guys. I understand. And I wish him nothing but the best. I don't have to do that to him personally because your personal life seems to look wonderful. But the other side to all of this is that, in conference play under Cliff Kingsbury, look at it, 19-35, really? Really? 19-35? Giving up 39 points a game, nearly 500 yards a game in conference play, and a turnover differential of -30? I'm going to repeat that. Leave that up on the damn screen. You got an overall 35-40 record. In conference play, you're 16 games under 500. You gave up nearly 40 points a game, nearly 500 yards per game, and you were a -30 in turnover differential. This is the new head coach of the Arizona Cardinals. And you got the nerve to preoccupy yourself with coming at me on Twitter? You should be drug tested right now. Right now. That's what you're selling to the state of Arizona. That's what you're selling. I mean, you can't make this up. And this was the guy that was the number one candidate for the Jets. You thought, could you imagine, John, for 1 second, could y'all imagine America if this man had been hired by the New York Jets? This media, well, what I just read off to y'all, could you imagine if he had showed up at a press conference in New York City, under 5 games under 500, 16 games under 500 in conference play, surrendering 40 points a game, nearly 500 yards a game in conference play with a minus 30 turnover differential? Could you imagine if he had showed up in New York City to be the next head coach for the New York Jets? Do you know what would have happened to him? I mean, I thank God Cliff Kingsbury ain't in town. Because had he been here, I don't know what would have happened to him. I don't know. It's not his fault. I'm not pointing the finger at him. All I'm saying is your resume doesn't warrant you being a head coach in a National Football League. It just doesn't. It just doesn't. And that's who the New York Jets were thinking about. Him and Adam Gase. You can't make this up. You just can't make this up. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Hour number 2, I'll have the head coach for the reigning national champions, Dabo Swinney. I wonder if anybody thought to offer him a job. I mean, don't you think? I mean, who would argue with Dabo being your coach? Right now, it's a legitimate argument. He's the best of the game. Cliff Kingsbury. And so you don't go that route. You go to Adam Gase, who plays within your division over the last 3 years. Ain't been to the playoffs the last 2. Ain't had a winning record the last 2. Pointed to injuries as the reason why. And that's who you selling New Yorkers on. Wow. Oh, by the way, did I mention 5 black head coaches were fired? Not a single black individual was replaced. All white guys, all got their head coaching jobs in the NFL. In the league, 70% black were players. Only 2 black head coaches, 1 black GM, no minority ownership. And the players are busy protesting the national anthem. Lord have mercy. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. By the way, when you're hiring, you don't want to waste time sorting through dozens of irrelevant resumes, do you? You want an efficient way to get to a short list of qualified candidates. That's why you need Indeed.com. Post a job in minutes, set up screening questions based on your job requirements, then zero in on qualified candidates using an intuitive online dashboard. Discover why 3 million businesses use Indeed for hiring. Post a job today at Indeed.com/hire. Search for greatness. Search Indeed. 888-SAY-ESPN, 888-729-3776. You are listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
Winter or summer, rain or shine, with the Peloton bike, it's always the perfect weather to sweat. And with up to 14 live rides a day and over 10,000 more on demand, nothing will get between you and your workout. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local.
Was this guy the hot ticket that everybody should be clamoring for? The man didn't even have a 500 record at Texas Tech. He got an offensive coordinator's job at USC, and before he had a chance to take a leak, this brother's got a head coaching job in the National Football League. How much time, John, did he actually spend at USC? What, a week? He didn't even have an opportunity to go to Roscoe's for chicken and waffles. I mean, what the hell is going on? And this guy is some candidate that you're clamoring for? Okay, he's photogenic. The ladies will love Mr. Kingsbury, Mr. Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, let's stop the presses right now. The ladies are going to be all over the place drooling over Cliff Kingsbury. He's photogenic. In some people's eyes, it looks like a model. In my personal opinion, he looks like he belongs on The Bachelor. Here's the problem. He looks like he belongs on The Bachelor more than he belongs on the sideline as a head coach for a National Football League team. You got to be kidding me. He coached Patrick Mahomes. He coached Case Keenum. He coached Johnny Manziel. Really? Really? When he was a head coach on a collegiate level, without them, what'd he do? What'd he do? I mean, talk about a travesty of justice. I'm not trying to sit up there and tell you that he can't coach or he won't do a good job. Mr. Cliff Kingsbury, I apologize if that's how I'm coming across, because I don't mean to do that. That is not my intention. What I am saying is, there's not a resume here that warrants him becoming the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and you're the New York Jets, and you are actually fighting for him?
Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News is being brought to you by Pennzoil Synthetics, taking synthetic motor oil performance to a whole new level. So make the switch to Pennzoil Synthetics today. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. Reminding you yet again that to start off hour number 2, we are expecting to have the head coach for the reigning defending national champion Clemson Tigers, Mr. Dabo Swinney. He will be on the show with yours truly. Can't wait to talk to him. Until then, let's get to the phones at 888-SAY-ESPN. Let's go to Joe. You're live with Joe in Queens. What's up? Talk to me.
What's going on, Steve?
I'm good. Talk to me. What's up?
So, I just wanted to talk on two things, Knicks basketball and the hiring of Adam Gase. I'm just going with the football first. So, I noticed the other day you were giving slack about the Jets giving an eye to Mike McCarthy. And my thing is, who would you rather have between a Mike McCarthy or an Adam Gase?
Neither.
And then to compound that question is, I know you've been also mentioning that there's been firing of 5 African-American coaches. And those are Marvin Lewis, Vance Joseph, Todd Bowles, Hugh Jackson, and then Steve Wilkes. You can't hire Steve Wilkes because he literally wet the entire bed in Arizona.
Well, stop right there. Stop right there, because I'm already annoyed by your call because you're disingenuous. I don't care that they were fired. I'm talking about who's been hired. I never said that folks didn't deserve to be fired. What I said is, where's the pipeline? You got all of these guys. Kingsbury, why didn't you call up and ask me about Kingsbury? How did he get the job? What did he do to deserve the job? How come you're not talking to me about Gase, who's lost the last 2 years in Miami, didn't make the postseason, didn't wow anybody with Ryan Tannehill or anybody else, and we're entrusting him to Sam Darnold? Why didn't you call me about that? I didn't say anything about Vic Fangio getting the Denver job. I didn't say anything about Bruce Arians getting the Tampa job.
Adam Gase had NFL experience going back to Detroit since 2008.
Don't give me NFL experience. I just told you what he did with the one thing that he did have in Miami. And by the way, I'm not saying he doesn't deserve a job. What I'm saying is the Jets hired somebody within the same division that's missed the playoffs over the last 2 years just like they did. What's so great about him?
There's nothing extravagant about Adam Gase.
Well, that's all I'm saying. So why are you wasting time? Why are you annoying me bringing him up? Why are you doing that when you can't even make an argument on his behalf? Why don't you pick another subject to be passionate about rather than something so obviously a waste of your time? Adam Gase is nothing to knock anybody's socks off about.
You're the GM of the Jets. Who are you hiring?
Well, what I'm saying to you is this. If you can find a Sean McVay or somebody like that, and I'm not saying literally because I know everybody's looking for that. My point to you is don't give me a Kingsbury who didn't succeed collegiately, and don't give me an Adam Gase who's blaming injuries for what they couldn't accomplish in Miami over the last 2 years. How about something in between? How about a Vic Fangio? How come you didn't pursue him?
Adam Gase did a great job over in Denver.
Goodbye. Go to hell. Bye. I'm not listening to that. I'm not listening to that. He's just been a head coach in Miami for 3 years. And you're going to give me he did a great job in Denver? He's just been in your division in the AFC East over the last 3 years. And you're going to give me Denver? Don't call back here no more. Don't waste my time. Scott, go ahead. Scott in LA, what's up?
Hey, good morning, Steve. Very big fan of the show, even when I disagree with you.
I don't mind people disagreeing. Hold on, Scott. I don't mind people disagreeing, but getting back to my previous caller, don't piss me off. This is the Stephen A. Smith. This is the Stephen A. Smith show. I'm not talking to you right now for a second, Scott. Just hold on for 1 second. I'm talking to my audience here. I don't play. We're talking about a process that has been circumvented. We're talking about retreads of mediocrity, reingratiating themselves in the NFL. In Adam Gase's case, or in Kingsbury's case, you don't even belong in the NFL as a head coach. Not yet. What's the criteria? I don't want to hear all of this stuff. I'm not letting it slide. What we try to do in the world of sports is get as close to a meritocracy as we can get. Because if you shred that in the world of sports, what do you have? We got enough politics going on in corporate America. Enough nepotism going on in corporate America. The NFL inserted a Rooney rule because of stuff like this. And now you going back to that? Adam Gase, I'm sure he's going to be a head coach again in the National Football League. And he'll deserve it. But the Jets kicking out his door like, oh my God, we got to have him? Kingsbury at Texas Tech. 5 games under 500, and I read you the other numbers. He's a head coach in the National Football League? Really? Go ahead, Scott.
Hey, Stephen, thank you again. Listen, I just wanted to call because I'm an ethnic minority in this country, and I am disturbed. I watch a lot of sports radio. I listen to a lot of sports radio while I'm working, and I am disturbed by, white people or people who are not African American ignoring the clear and unabashed truth that there is a racism in football between the commissioner, the GMs, the owners, the coaches. This Rooney rule has got to be
Stop right there. You went too far. When you consider the lieutenants and the officials that are of minority descent working in the National Football League office, that is unfair to paint that picture on Roger Goodell. He is the commissioner of the NFL. The Rooney rule has been inserted. Okay, but it's up to these individual owners and the executives and the subordinates working under them to have more of a clear conscience about what's going on. I'm not going to put that on the league owners. I'm not going to put that on the league commissioner. I'm going to put that on league owners throughout the National Football League, clearly engaging in a level of behavior that's disturbing. And I got news for you, too. Here's something that nobody's brought up. But I don't give a damn. I'm going to bring it up. When President Donald Trump went off about how he fired all of those SOBs to the point where even Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys felt compelled to take a knee. You had NFL owners completely in panic mode, looking at Colin Kaepernick, looking at others, swearing how these protests had to stop, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they did everything to distance themselves from the kind of things that some people, not all, but that some people were saying about the president. And I'm one of those people, even though I have no problem with Colin Kaepernick taking the position that he took, I also understand how other people would look at it, particularly in middle America. And I'm not judging anybody. What I would say to you, however, is something in the question form. Based on these hirings, based on the absence of a criteria, that has clearly been allowed in this whole hiring process over the last couple of weeks. I'll ask a simple question. Tell me how some of these owners' behavior don't emulate or imitate exactly what they were lamenting about the president.
Well, listen, if you have a Rooney rule in place and they're all kind of in cahoots with each other to just check the box that they're interviewing minority candidates, but there's no deterrent or any type of follow-up on the lack of hiring, and when they continue to change the rules of the game, I can't believe I'm admitting this or owning up to it, but I see it clearly. You first say we want to have African Americans as coordinators. That's going to be kind of the foundation of your bench to promote to be a head coach or a coach to a GM. And then all of a sudden, coordinators that get promoted and get fired never get rehired or very rarely get rehired. And now they've changed the rules again. And I'm not saying it's only Goodell or the owners. It's the whole system.
Well,
and now they're going into college.
Well, no. I got you, and I appreciate the call. Thank you so much. But it's been a problem in college. Here's the biggest issue. And this is something that I want to say that's very, very important. If the pool of black candidates existed from college into the pro game, okay, and in concert with that, qualified, clearly, undeniably qualified candidates who happen to be white were getting the head coaching jobs in the NFL, I wouldn't say a word. What we should be alarmed about is, A, the absence of a pool for minority candidates to be in position to get these jobs, A. And B, that in concert with the unqualified candidates getting these jobs. Cliff Kingsbury is not qualified to be an NFL head coach. I'm telling you that because he might do a good job. I'm not telling you he's not going to do a good job. I'm talking about the process, and I want to apologize on national television to Cliff Kingsbury. I'm only using his name because he was the one hired yesterday. I'm only talking about his resume. You do not go under 500. You do not go under 500 and also have 16 games below 500 in conference play, giving up nearly 40 points a game, nearly 500 yards a game, being a minus 30 in a turnover differential. And just because you worked with quarterbacks like a Baker Mayfield or a Johnny Manziel or a Patrick Mahomes, that qualifies you to be a head coach in the National Football League, bypassing every criteria imaginable that has been applicable to damn near everybody else for decades. It's not right. If it were Marvin Lewis, if it was Steve Wilkes, if it were Todd Bowles or anybody else, I'd say the same damn thing. The criteria needs to be consistent. And it's not when it comes to the good young boys you want to hire. That is my issue. That should be all of our issue. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, with Vivid Seats app, it's easy to find awesome seats to any game. Download the app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order today. More of your calls in a minute before we get to Dabo Swinney to start off hour number 2, so don't touch that dial. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Craving even more of Stephen A?
When I think about Kevin Durant, he's a superstar in this game, one of the top 3 or 4 players in the world. Him being in New York with Porzingis would be something special if that were to happen. But right now, I got to tell y'all something. When I look at the New York Knicks, everybody's talking about the New York Knicks. I got to admit to you, we might be doing an injustice to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are the better team in New York. The Brooklyn teams look like they're going to have the brighter future. Tell me I'm lying, Nuno. They look, I mean, when you consider the cap space that could bring you 2 max players when the Knicks only have enough for 1, and you consider the young dudes that they already have on their squad, Dinwiddie and the crew, and how they've been balling, and if the playoffs were to begin this past weekend, the Brooklyn Nets would have been the 8th seed in the playoffs, going up against either Milwaukee or Toronto. Let me tell you something right now. You better respect the Brooklyn Nets and the job that Marks and Atkinson and those boys are doing in Brooklyn. We have denied them credit long enough. We're sitting up here talking about marquee dudes coming to New York. We better be specific from now on. You better say the Knicks, because guess what? Coming to New York could be Brooklyn. Because if I'm a player out there and I have an opportunity to choose the Knicks over the Nets, the only thing you're selling me is Midtown traffic and the brand that is the Knicks over at traffic on Atlantic Avenue and the brand that is the Brooklyn Nets. That's all you're selling. You ain't selling me basketball, because from a basketball standpoint, the Brooklyn Nets look better than the Knicks. They look better now, and their future looks better. So I got news for you. It ain't a foregone conclusion that the Knicks will get anybody. But I promise you, the Nets going to end up with somebody. Because if you're doing what you're doing now, with cap space for 2 max players, even if you don't get any max players, who's to say that you can't upgrade in a myriad of ways with that amount of money available to you? Somebody better ask somebody. Brooklyn Nets are coming.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Enjoy Performance Line. And you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-FLOWER Twitter feed.
Welcome back to the Stephen A. Smith Show. We're coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17 South Street, Seaport, New York City. Plus, ESPN Radio is being presented by Progressive Insurance. Cars, homes, boats, motorcycles, RVs, and more at Progressive.com. It's real interesting. Eric Bieniemy, might not know his name. Offensive coordinator, ladies and gentlemen. You know he's an offensive coordinator of? Kansas City Chiefs. Number 1 ranked offense in points. Number 1 ranked offense in yards allowed. Number 3 offense passing attack. First-year offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs. No, he's not calling the plays. That would happen to be Andy Reid. Eric Bieniemy, though, offensive coordinator. Only black offensive coordinator in the NFL this past season. Jets talked to him. I wonder what kind of interview that was. Somehow, some way, Kingsbury was more qualified than him, too. It just never ends. Hour number 2 up next. The great one. Coach for the reigning national champion, Clemson Tigers, Dabo Swinney. He's next with Stephen A. right here. Of ESPN Radio and ESPN News. Number to call up as always is 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. I'll get back to your phone calls in just a minute. Obviously, I'm going to be able to go. I'm going to be getting a little bit more into some NFL stuff and what transpired last night in Los Angeles and how Kyle Kuzma's 41-point explosion in the first 3 quarters is detrimental to the Lakers. Not helpful. I'll explain exactly what I'm talking about as the show progresses, as we continue on with the Stephen A. Smith Show right here on ESPN Radio. Welcome back here. We're coming to you live from above the Heineken River Deck at Pier 17 South Street Seaport in New York City. Again, I'll be getting into the NFL action and the NBA action as well. Any minute now, we'll be having on the reigning national champion for the Clemson Tigers, head coach for the Clemson Tigers, the one and only Dabo Swinney. We're looking forward to having him on. By the way, with Vivid Seats app, it's easy to find awesome seats to any game, and all purchases are backed by their 100% guarantee. Go to the App Store or Google Play and download the app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Any minute now, I'll hopefully have Dabo Swinney, coach of the reigning defending champion Clemson Tigers, on. But until then, let me say this. Kyle Kuzma looked explosive last night for the Los Angeles Lakers. He looked incredibly impressive last night for the Los Angeles Lakers. There is no doubt about that. But let me tell y'all something. All that glitters ain't gold. You see, here's the problem. We were raving about Brandon Ingram. We'll get into all of that in a second. He's on the line right now. And let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen, if there was ever a man that could shut me up, it is this individual. He is my next guest. He is a man that for 4 consecutive years I have picked against him. And obviously 2 times in the national championship game, I was dreadfully wrong, particularly with this one. I'm talking about the great one himself, the head coach for the Clemson Tigers, the reigning defending national champion Clemson Tigers. Dabo Swinney is on the line with me right now. Coach, how are you, sir? Congratulations.
Oh, I'm good, man. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. I got to admit, man, it's rare that I'm this happy to be wrong, but I got to tell you, you guys were sensational. I saw you imitating me before the game when I said I picked Alabama 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. but you pulled it off, Coach.
We had running on a loop for like weeks around here, man. You're the one that created the Roy bus. You didn't even know it.
I didn't know. Well, talk to me, Coach. How did when you put into perspective what happened just this Monday night, how did it go down like that? What transpired in your mind?
Well, we're the best team, and I told our team about midway in the season, I felt like we were the best team in the country, and I said we're going to have the opportunity to prove that. Let's just keep our head down, keep grinding, keep going to work, and we won 13 of the 15 games by 20 points or more, and we had just that. We were the first undefeated playoff matchup with Notre Dame, and then the first undefeated national championship matchup, and when you beat Alabama 44-16, there's really no extra. It's so funny to hear all the people trying to make excuses and explanations and things instead of just, we were the best team.
Yeah.
Simple as that. We were the best team. I thought we were the most talented team in that game this year, and that's all that matters. And these guys proved it. It was kind of a drop-the-mic moment for those guys. I'm so happy for our seniors. And it was a dominant performance. I thought we were better in the trenches. They had 0 sacks. We pressured their quarterback. We were able to get something going in the run game just enough, and then we felt like we had great matchups, skill on skill, and we had explosive plays. Our quarterback played great. He played great all year. I'm not sure why everybody was so worried about him all of a sudden turning into something that he wasn't, but from a matchup standpoint, we felt like it was a great matchup for us. And, all year long, this was the best Alabama team they've ever had. And so, we were just the better team and played better, made great plays, won in the trenches. They had turnovers. We didn't. We had sacks. They didn't. We made big plays. They had not very many. We were good in the red zone. They weren't. And that's really what it comes down to in games like that. But, they're a great team, but we were the best team this year. And, you shake hands, and it's like I told Nick afterwards, I said, I'll see you next year, because they're not going away. They'll be right back next year for sure, and they've been an unbelievable champion. But this particular team that we had here at Clemson is so special from day one.
Coach Dabo Swinney, educate me on this. As you said, everybody all year long was talking about Alabama, particularly when it came to its quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, and everybody was talking about Tua as if he were invincible. It's one thing to ask what the coach says to the players to get them ready, etc. What did the players, or what were the players saying to you leading into the national championship game Monday night?
Just total confidence. We felt like we had the better team, and we felt like we matched up great. Great respect for them. Unbelievable defensive personnel, offensive personnel. Tua is special. Just really, really special. But we felt like we could. We were athletic in our front and could create a little strain and maybe disrupt their timing a little bit. We went into the game, kind of wanting to lie to them a little bit pre-snap and give to us some different looks and hopefully force a few mistakes. And the first big pick six there was a great call, a great well-designed coverage with a pressure look, but we really played a cloud corner to the field, and we were kind of fooling right there. That was a big play for us. But our guys were confident. mean, they've been that way all year. This team, you got to understand the makeup of this team. This was a very deep team when it comes to leadership. We had 26 guys voted for captain, that got votes for captain, and 34 guys that got votes for most inspirational player. So it was just a unbelievable team. I've had a lot of great individual leaders over my time here, but this team, the depth of leadership was special, and it was that way from day one. And, they worked all year. They kept their head down. They stayed focused all year. Like I said, they won 13 of the games by 20 points or more. I thought we played a very challenging schedule, and I think it prepared our league. Doesn't get the respect that it should. I mean, we had 11 bowl teams, but our league is very competitive and really prepares us for postseason every year, year in and year out. And all you got to do is look at our postseason. And because we play people, it's a tough conference, and then we step out of conference and we play folks, and then we get in the postseason. We're usually at our best, and that's the way it was this year. And this leadership led us the whole way.
I was going to ask you about that in terms of your conference and what have you, because every time somebody's talking about football, obviously it almost stops and starts with the SEC. Now, obviously you played in Alabama for the national championship. You played Texas A&M, second game of the season, and that was a hell of a game that y'all ended up winning 28-26. So when you talk about your conference and the lack of respect per se, is it that everything goes to the SEC and everyone else is suffering from receiving a lack of respect? Or do you think specifically more attention needs to be given to the ACC? Which one is it?
I think it's definitely more attention given to the ACC. This league is very, very challenging. I mean, again, we had 11 bowl teams this year. I think we had 10 last year, 11 the year before that. I think no league's had more bowl teams over the last 3 years. It's just very competitive. I mean, anybody can beat anybody, in my opinion. You got to come to play every week. We have a bunch of great coaches in this league, and the SEC is a great league too. There's no doubt about it. But there is a rhetoric that nobody else plays football, and I some of that's media driven or whatever. But the SEC is very, unbelievable, the league. But it's our league is what prepares us. That's all I can say, is what the ACC gives us week in and week out, and what we practice against every day and how we practice. And so, we've been in the postseason. I mean, you can go all the way back to 2012 when we beat LSU. And it's been every year we get into some of these postseason games, and it seems like we're always, no matter what we do, we're always kind of, the underdog, if you will. And it's just kind of our guys love that. I mean, because they know how we practice, they know who we play and how we prepare, and and when we played Alabama, so we're 2-1 against them in national championship games. We're 2-2 over the last 4 years. So we have the mindset that you have to compete against such an unbelievable opponent. But I think our league has been very deep and competitive. And I think the SEC has been very strong on the front end, but maybe not as deep. Although this year I thought they had a bunch of good competitive teams, a bunch of bowl teams as well.
Dabo Swinney, head coach for the reigning defending national champion Clemson Tigers, right here with Stephen A. ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Got to get into Trevor Lawrence right now because I'm looking at a freshman. And I'm looking at the height on this guy. I think he's a legit 6'6", 6'5", 6'6", coach. Clearly he's got a rifle of an arm on him. Looked absolutely sensational in the national championship game as well with his 3 touchdowns and 347 yards passing. You had Deshaun Watson just a couple of years ago deliver a national championship for you. And I'm not asking you to compare those two per se, but what I am asking is how good can Trevor Lawrence end up being when we talk about, I've got people right now talking about his height and his ability to see over the defensive line of scrimmage and what he can do with that arm of his. They think he has an opportunity to be one of, if not the all-time great. What do you say about Trevor Lawrence today?
I say that he certainly has that opportunity. I think that he's got every measurable that you would ever want, from a quarterback standpoint, as far as his size, his fundamentals, his release, arm strength, his athleticism, his all those things. And then he's got the intangibles, the football IQ, the ability to process things and see it, his demeanor, his poise, his leadership, his character, his humility, all those things. So he's got everything. There's really the only thing that would stop him is just the good Lord didn't have it in cards for him for whatever reason. But, man, he's going to just continue to get better. His body, he played about 215 this year. And as opposed to Deshaun, his freshman year, he played about right at 199, 200, and left here about 215 or so. And I think Trevor will leave here, 230 plus, and he's very athletic. I mean, the last drive of the game the other night was the longest drive in Clemson football history. We had the ball 10 minutes and 2 seconds to end the game. We got the ball on the half-inch line and kept it for 10 minutes and 2 seconds and took a knee. And a big reason for that was Trevor. He made a couple of runs, and a lot of people don't really see him in that light. But, man, that guy can move, and he can make plays with his legs when he needs to. And you saw that on that last drive. He had a couple of huge first downs that allowed us to take all the time off the clock there in the fourth quarter. So he's special, and I can't wait to get back on the field this spring. We've got most everybody back on offense, and we're going to lose Renfro. He's finally out of here.
That's right.
But it'll be a good starting point to have he and Chase Bryce, who also got some great experience this year, getting out there on that field.
I got to tell you something, too. Trevor Lawrence ain't the only special one. This kid, Justin Ross, is something special, and he is a guy that starred as a prep player in Alabama, and you got him to come from Alabama to Clemson, and that leads me to a bigger question that I wanted to ask you about. Being at Winston-Salem State, going to school there, right up the road from Clemson in South Carolina, I'm familiar with that area, and I never in my wildest dreams believed that Clemson would be sitting in this position right now where it's not about just a national championship. What I took from Justin Ross and when he was spoken to and what he spoke about this prior to the national championship game, they asked him why he wanted to come to Clemson. And he talked about the family kind of atmosphere, the fun-loving coach, and the program that he plays for. And he talks about having a good time. Nick Saban is phenomenal. He is one of the all-time greats in some people's eyes, the all-time great. We get that, and there's nothing to dismiss or poo-poo about the Alabama Crimson Tide. But when you look at Clemson's program, I think the biggest thing is that a guy like Justin Ross left Alabama to come and play for your program. What do you think that says, not just about you, but what's going on at Clemson? Because you got a lot of kids out there that are looking at Clemson differently.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think we signed guys this year in the class from, I think, 14 different states. So, I mean, we've gone to Pennsylvania and got the top player in the state. We got the top receiver out of California this year, Joseph Ngata, the top receiver out of Florida, Frank Ladson. I mean, we've gone all over. And but getting Justin Ross last year was huge for us. I mean, Trevor Lawrence last year out of Georgia, #1 player in the country. So we recruit guys that we think fit our culture, and we're transparent because I want guys to know what they're getting into when they come in here, what the expectations are. And it's just really cool to see young people that are just great football players, highly recruited and all that, but yet they still. They want family, they want discipline, they want structure, they want accountability, and it's not that it doesn't mean that's not a lot of other schools have those same things, but it's just really cool that our brand has grown to that point, and guys know what we're all about, and for a young man like him to want to come and be a part of it, but he knows that we're explosive on offense. He knew that he would be able to come in here and have a chance to grow and mature with Trevor Lawrence along the way. And he came in here and got behind T. Higgins. He's the second freshman I've had to have 1,000 yards. The other one was Sammy Watkins. And he was a backup. He backed up T. Higgins most of the year. And then as the year went on, we kind of had different packages where we got them both on the field at the same time. But he's an amazing talent. Those catches that you saw the other night, that's like just, another day at practice for what we see around here. And he's a great kid with a tremendous work ethic, so much fun to coach, and man, is it going to be fun to work with that guy for a couple more years.
Just a couple more questions for the great one, Dabo Swinney, the coach of the reigning defending national champion Clemson Tigers, right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I want to transition because I want to get your perspective, not about these players, but about player accountability and some of the things that young guys out there need to recognize if you're going to come and play collegiate sports. You had a Dexter Lawrence, you had a Zach Galea and Brandon Galloway. They got suspended because of the national championship game because of some failed drug test with some muscle growth supplements or whatever the case may be. But more so than that, forget about those guys for a second. You are a coach going into kids' homes, talking to their parents, their family members, et cetera, et cetera. Because of how things have changed from a societal perspective, even from the business of the NCAA, how individuals, players, programs, et cetera, are held accountable, what's your message to kids that want to come and play collegiate sports that they really, really need to know and to grasp if they're going to succeed at this level and keep their head above waters? What are some of the minefields you think they need to watch out for, Coach?
First of all, there's no entitlement. You know, we live in this world now, especially with a lot of young people that get armed with this entitlement, whether it comes from, you know, outside people in their life or whatever, or the recruiting process. You know, listen, there's no elevator to success. You know, you got to take the steps, period, the end. And you got to be willing to put the work in. And the one thing about football that's never changed is it's still hard work. And it's commitment, and it's sacrifice, and it's dedication, and it's stick-to-itness, and it's team, and it's structure, and all those things. And, you know, and you have to start over. You know, you have to humble yourself. I mean, and just kind of come in with the right mindset. I mean, most of these guys, I mean, you know, I always tell them, listen, when you're a better player as a senior in high school or a freshman in high school. And, you know, they all usually will say, well, obviously my senior year. Why is that? More experience, more knowledgeable, more poised, stronger, smarter, all those things. And it doesn't mean that you can't be a good freshman, obviously, but enjoy all the journey and just come in and put the work in. You know, everybody wants to be great, but not everybody's willing to do what it takes to be great. And you know, character matters. You know, character matters. That anybody, your talent and your knowledge could get you to the top of whatever it is, whether you're a great radio host or TV host like yourself, or a football coach, or a football player. But only your character is going to keep you there. And, you know, so be a young person of excellence in everything that you do. You know, value your education. Value the journey. You know, life is so short, and it's a moment. 3 or 4 or 5 years in the scope of your life is such a small moment. Maximize it. You know, use the game of football to create the network that you need for the next 4 years. You know, it's so big an opportunity for these young people coming in, and you know, I don't want my guys to be defined by football. I want them to be great men. You know, they just by the way, they're good football players too. You know, but they're going to be equipped through their journey and through the experience of football to go dominate in life, man, outside the lines, not just on a football field. And that's what I love about my guys and the guys that come here. It's so funny because, you know, they're all so similar. It doesn't matter where I go. It's neat for me to get to go see my guys in December and January that are coming in, and I can see clearly when I get to go see where they're coming from, why they chose us. And, you know, it's been awesome. We've got a great culture, and there's no perfect place. There's no utopia. But, man, just being committed to loving your players and trying to do the right thing and helping them be successful academically and athletically. Right. That's what it's all about.
My last question to you, we've been talking about usually, you know, it's Nick Saban. Urban Meyer's name was in it. Now, obviously, not too many people's got 2 national championships on their resume. You're one of the very few people that has achieved that now. So now they're talking about Dabo Swinney as arguably the greatest coach in college football, with obviously more championships expected in the immediate future. How are you feeling about yourself right now? We know how you feel about your program. We know how you feel about your players. How are you feeling about you?
No, I'm just blessed. I'm just blessed. There's a million better coaches than me. That's for sure. There's a lot of great high school coaches and college coaches that have never get the opportunity to win a national championship or coach at a place like Clemson. But, I'm just blessed, man. This was God's plan for me, and I'm so thankful that I've had the opportunity. It's very clear to me to see how God ordered my steps over my last 25 years of life, really all of my life, but in particular over the last 25 years, how He's orchestrated everything. So, man, I'm just blessed and thankful and enjoying the journey.
Right.
And I know that the best is yet to come. We're
Coach,
just enjoying it one day at a time.
Coach, I promise, very last question. You've got a whole bunch of these NFL teams coming after college coaches, it seems, these days. I know you ain't thinking about leaving now, but is it possible that the NFL could be in your future one day, particularly if you keep winning a couple of more national championships? It might get to a point where there's nothing else to approve on a collegiate level. Ever think about that at all?
I don't really think about it, to be honest with you. And there's been teams that have reached out. Other colleges, NFL teams over the last few years, for sure. But, I love where I am. I love what I do. I love my guys. I love my staff. And, when you make decisions like that, you're not just impacting yourself. You're impacting a lot of people. And, I always say never say never. I think that's just kind of because I don't know where I'm going to be 5 years from now, what my mindset would be. Is my president a jerk? Is my AD a guy that's miserable? I have no idea what's down the road. So I never say never, but I just live in the moment, man. I love where I am, who I work with, and that's really all I try to stay focused on.
Coach?
I've never been a grass is green kind of guy. I've always just kind of bloom where I'm planted.
Coach, Stephen A. Smith is done picking against you. I'm done. I'm done with it. I'm done with it, Coach.
That's because you were one of my greatest motivational speakers. You don't even know it.
I got you. I kind of do know it. When I told him, call him 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Boy, that was hilarious. I appreciate you, Coach, man, and I'm so happy for you, man. Congratulations. That was a phenomenal performance Monday night. I never saw that coming. I thought it was possible you could win. I never saw that beat down coming. That was unbelievable. Unbelievable.
I appreciate it, man. You're the best. I always enjoy your perspective.
Thanks a lot, Coach.
I look forward to seeing you sometime soon.
You will. I'll make sure when I come down there. I am coming. I'll come. Let me tell you something. Extend the invitation. I'll be down there.
National championships, we legitimize you. You will actually come see us here.
I'm coming. I'm coming.
I think you owe our team a face-to-face apology for never picking us.
Hey, listen, Coach. Are you ready for this?
In Oklahoma, you said Baker Mayfield is another, and it will never be Baker Mayfield. And so
I don't recall that one. Not Oklahoma, Alabama. Yes, I always disagree with you about that.
I'm sure they got tape.
Hey, listen, Coach. I'll come down there and apologize to your team. I'll come down. A matter of fact, I'm supposed to be in Carolina in a couple of weeks. I will make sure to drive down there just to apologize to y'all.
I love it.
All right, buddy.
We're on a parade this Saturday. We might need to put you on the floor.
Well, I'm gonna be in L.A., Dallas. Okay. Cowboys and the Rams. Cowboys and the Rams. All right. That's right. You know it, Coach. Thank you, man. Love you, man. Appreciate everything. Thank you so much.
All the best.
All right, buddy. Happy New Year. The one and only Dabo Swinney right here with Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. I did not pick Baker Mayfield in Oklahoma against Clemson. There's no tape on that. But I picked Alabama against them all 4 years. Yes, I did. I really did that. I ain't pick them one time. I rolled with the tide. Boy, was I wrong this past Monday. What a great performance by Clemson. He is a great coach. He deserves all the praise that the program is receiving right now. Not just because it was winning, but what people say about the program, man. These guys love being there. They love being there. That's the difference right now. Nick Saban's phenomenal. Very business-like approach in some people's eyes. But I love Nick Saban. But Dabo Swinney's something special, man. He really, really is. Something to behold. Clemson, special. Congratulations to them. It's well-deserved. No question about it. Clemson's a reigning, defending national champions. And I promise you this, they will win another title if Trevor Lawrence stays healthy. They will win another title. There's no doubt in my mind. They win one of the next 2 titles, if not both, assuming that health works in their favor. 888-SAY-ESPN is 888-729-3776. You listen live, Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News. By the way, Peloton is a game-changing indoor cycling bike that brings the energy of live studio classes right to your home anytime you want. Winter or summer, rain or shine. Whether it's a monthly challenge to meet your goals, a training program for your next race, or setting a new personal best, the Peloton bike will make you want to show up and keep climbing a live leaderboard year-round. On average, Peloton members are riding their bikes more every year and crushing their personal records along the way. Learn more about the Peloton bike at onepeloton.com or visit your local showroom. Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio. Back with your calls and more in a minute.
Craving even more of Stephen A? Him of all people! For around-the-clock access to the man, I'm Stephen A. You can follow him on Twitter and Instagram at...
Was this guy the hot ticket that everybody should be clamoring for? The man didn't even have a 500 record at Texas Tech. He got an offensive coordinator's job at USC, and before he had a chance to take a leak, this brother's got a head coaching job in the National Football League. How much time, John, did he actually spend at USC? What, a week? He didn't even have an opportunity to go to Roscoe's for chicken and waffles. I mean, what the hell is going on? And this guy is some candidate that you're clamoring for? Okay, he's photogenic. The ladies will love Mr. Kingsbury. Mr. Cliff Kingsbury. I mean, let's stop the presses right now. The ladies are going to be all over the place drooling over Cliff Kingsbury. He's photogenic. In some people's eyes, it looks like a model. In my personal opinion, he looks like he belongs on The Bachelor. Here's the problem. He looks like he belongs on The Bachelor more than he belongs on the sideline as a head coach for a National Football League team. You got to be kidding me. He coached Patrick Mahomes. He coached Case Keenum. He coached Johnny Manziel. Really? Really? When he was a head coach on a collegiate level, without them, what'd he do? What'd he do? I mean, talk about a travesty of justice. I'm not trying to sit up there and tell you that he can't coach or he won't do a good job. Mr. Cliff Kingsbury, I apologize if that's how I'm coming across, because I don't mean to do that. That is not my intention. What I am saying is, there's not a resume here that warrants him becoming the head coach of the Arizona Cardinals, and you're the New York Jets, and you are actually fighting for him?
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
With the Vivid Seats app, it's easy to find awesome seats to any game, and all purchases are backed by their 100% guarantee. Go to the App Store or Google Play and download the app and enter promo code CHAMPS at checkout to get 10% off your first order. 888-SAY-ESPN. That's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to the Stephen A. Smith Show, ESPN Radio, ESPN News. Before I get back to the calls, it's a couple of things that I wanted to get into. Number one, I wanted to point out the 41-point explosion that Kyle Kuzma put forth last night in 3 quarters against the Detroit Pistons. Ladies and gentlemen, here's your problem if you're a Los Angeles Lakers fan. The better Kyle Kuzma looks, the more demanding opposing teams are going to be about acquiring him if the Lakers are to get anyone that it would take a trade to get, a la Anthony Davis. See, for me, I'm looking at it along the lines of, here's where I'm at with it. Brandon Ingram is a good player, but I don't think fits in the Lakers system. Lonzo Ball, I'm not going to lie, I'm just sick of preaching about his need to be assertive and aggressive. Lonzo Ball, to me, everything about him just looks average. And I know other than his jump shot, he shouldn't be average. He's a guy that defends. He's gotten bigger. He's clearly worked on his body. Let's not forget the fact that he can pass. He's got a high basketball IQ, etc. He just seems to me like somebody who is perfectly content to get the ball past half court and give it to somebody else and just run in a corner. I'm not saying literally that's him because that's obviously he moves without the ball. I'm just simply saying he gives off that impression. And so what happens is that the combination of Brandon Ingram looking so-so along with Lonzo looking worse than so-so, and then you combine that with how Kuzma has really elevated his level of play, dropping 28 the other night, dropping 41, having a 33-point game about a week or so ago, etc. Kuzma can ball. I told y'all I love him and Josh Hart together. Kuzma can ball. But I am just of the mindset that, wow, other teams are going to demand that Kuzma be a part of the mix. And I think Kuzma is that third wheel for a championship team. LeBron, another superstar, and Kuzma delivers you a championship. That's what I believe. But that's just me. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. The other thing I wanted to bring up, I have an individual in Dallas, Texas. He happens to be one of my favorite sportscasters in the country. His name is Dale Hansen. For the ABC Dallas affiliate, WFAA, Dallas, Texas. He's 70 years of age. He's a damn fine sportscaster. Has been there many years. 6 p.m., 10 p.m. newscast, if I remember correctly. He's an American sportscaster. I've always loved him from the time that I saw the SMU documentary, the 30 for 30 documentary done on ESPN, when they were talking about the SMU program, football program, receiving a death penalty in the 80s, and everybody was going back and forth. This shouldn't happen. This shouldn't happen. And Dale Hansen was quoted saying, well, they do kill you in Texas now. I always laughed at that line because obviously the state had the death penalty, but he was speaking crime, but he was like, hey, this is Texas now. This man spoke, I believe it was yesterday on his newscast, about these coaches being hired. I've always loved this man. I love him even more now. Listen to what he had to say about the recent NFL coaching firings and hirings. Play it for me, John.
Been a lot of criticism of the Arizona Cardinals hiring Cliff Kingsbury as their new coach. Even my guys Mike and Jonah have been questioning that hire. But Kingsbury fits all the criteria to be a head coach in the NFL. He's an offensive genius, he's young, and he's white. And not necessarily in that order. There have been 6 new coaches hired so far, all white, and 2 coaches of color they are replacing. Stephen Wilkes, fired in Arizona after just 1 year. Vance Joseph in Denver after just 2. But Cowboys coach Jason Garrett is in his 9th year, apparently because he wins so much. A lot of people don't understand how Kingsbury can have a losing record at Texas Tech, no NFL experience, and get one of the 32 NFL jobs. But getting fired at Tech doesn't eliminate him from moving up, at least it doesn't to me. I've had 11 jobs in my life, been fired from 8 of them, and moved up every time. And I am arrogant enough to tell you, I think Channel 8 was right to give me another chance. But I am the product of white privilege in America, and I've never denied that I wasn't either. If they made a poster, my picture should be on it. Getting fired at one place and getting another chance isn't the problem. But young, talented coaches of color not getting the chance, that's a huge problem. The covert racism of the NFL ownership group was so bad, the NFL had to make a rule so that minority coaches could at least get an interview. Cowboys secondary coach Chris Richard has been interviewed, and there are reports saying he might get the Miami job. After what he's done with this Cowboys defense, how could he not? Unless it is true, what black parents have been telling their children for decades now, you have to be twice as good to go half as far. I dream of the day when those parents are wrong, because now they're not.
All I can say to Dale Hansen is thank you, sir. Thank you sincerely from the bottom of my heart. I really appreciate it. 888-SAY-ESPN. It's 888-729-3776. You're listening live to Stephen A. ESPN Radio. By the way, You know what never goes out of style? Surprising a special friend or loved one with 24 multicolored roses for $29.99 from 1-800-Flowers.com. To order, go to 1-800-Flowers.com/ESPN. We'll close out the show with your calls in more in a minute. It's Stephen A., ESPN Radio, ESPN News.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance. Visit geico.com.
Kyler Murray may...
When I think about Kevin Durant, he's a superstar in this game, one of the top 3 or 4 players in the world. Him being in New York with Porzingis would be something special if that were to happen. But right now, I got to tell y'all something. When I look at the New York Knicks, everybody's talking about the New York Knicks. I got to admit to you, we might be doing an injustice to the Brooklyn Nets. The Brooklyn Nets are the better team in New York. The Brooklyn teams look like they're going to have the brighter future. Tell me I'm lying, Nuno. They look, I mean, when you consider the cap space that could bring you 2 max players when the Knicks only have enough for 1, and you consider the young dudes that they already have on their squad, Dinwiddie and the crew, and how they've been balling, and if the playoffs were to begin this past weekend, the Brooklyn Nets would have been the 8th seed in the playoffs, going up against either Milwaukee or Toronto. Let me tell you something right now. You better respect the Brooklyn Nets and the job that Marks and Atkinson and those boys are doing in Brooklyn. We have denied them credit long enough. We're sitting up here talking about marquee dudes coming to New York. We better be specific from now on. You better say the Knicks, because guess what? Coming to New York could be Brooklyn. Because if I'm a player out there and I have an opportunity to choose the Knicks over the Nets, the only thing you're selling me is Midtown traffic and the brand that is the Knicks over at traffic on Atlantic Avenue and the brand that is the Brooklyn Nets. That's all you're selling. You ain't selling me basketball, because from a basketball standpoint, the Brooklyn Nets look better than the Knicks. They look better now, and their future looks better. So I got news for you. It ain't a foregone conclusion that the Knicks will get anybody. But I promise you, the Nets going to end up with somebody. Because if you're doing what you're doing now, with cap space for 2 max players, even if you don't get any max players, who's to say that you can't upgrade in a myriad of ways with that amount of money available to you? Somebody better ask somebody. Brooklyn Nets are coming.
The Stephen A. Smith Show on ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance. Guests on the Stephen A. Smith Show appear via the Shell Pennzoil Performance Line, and you can always get in touch with the show through the 1-800-Flowers Twitter feed.
ESPN Radio is presented by Progressive Insurance, making it easy to bundle your home and car insurance. Back to the phones we go. Shelby, you're live with Stephen A. Real quick, Shelby, go ahead.
Hey, Stephen A., first-time caller, long-time listener. I just wanted to get your thoughts on the upcoming Dallas Cowboys versus Philadelphia Eagles NFC title game that's going to take place down here in Arlington, Texas in a couple weeks.
Okay, so you're predicting the Cowboys will win Saturday night and the Eagles will win Sunday, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, goodbye. I'll talk to you Friday when I give my prediction. Let's go to Lionel. You're live with Stephen A. What's up?
Yeah, Stephen, how you doing from the Who Dat Nation?
All right, what's going on, man? Go ahead, real quick, Lionel. Go ahead.
I just have one thing to say. I want to thank you very much for that Friday interview you did before the Dallas Saints game, taking up for the Saints, and the very next day you went right back into that same place and you stood your ground. And second of all, I'd like to know who wins the Saints-Eagle game. Thank you.
Saints, I think the Saints will win in the Super Bowl championship until further notice. I think they're going to win it all. I really, really do. You know? And I didn't forget to put Drew Brees on my top 5 list today. I just wasn't even thinking about him because to me, I got them winning the Super Bowl. And he's so elite, I wasn't even thinking about it. I was more so thinking about keeping Nick Foles off of that list because of this miracle Nick Foles stuff. I mean, you got people talking about him like he's the second coming of Jesus. He's a good man, good family man, damn good quarterback. I think deserves to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. But people get beside themselves here. The miracle that is Nick. That's why the field goal got tipped and ultimately missed. That's why the defense played so elite, because Nick Foles touches you on your shoulder and you too shall be healed. I mean, please, stop. Stop it. I'm not even worried about it. Gotta go. Appreciate the call. Terrence, you're live with Stephen A. You only got 30 seconds. Go ahead, Terrence.
All right, Stephen A. So assuming that everybody plays and is healthy to the end of the season, who is your MVP, Giannis or Harden?
I would tell you this. To me, James Harden is something special to behold, but the way Giannis is playing and the way Milwaukee is winning because of it, I would have to give it to him unless Houston kept winning. See, James Harden dropped 42 last night, but they lost. Giannis keeps winning. And if Milwaukee ends up winning and they're the number one seed, I'm going to have to go with Giannis, the Greek freak, for the league MVP. But it would take that in order for me to give it to him.
Right.
All right. Take it easy, bro. Talk to you in 22 hours. Got a lot of stuff to get into tomorrow as well. Friday, NFL weekend upon us. Okay? So don't think I'm going to forget about it. Stick around. Don't touch that dial. All right? I'll be back here tomorrow in 22 hours. All right? Got to get on out of here, y'all. Hope y'all enjoyed the show. Again, I'll talk to y'all in 22 hours. NFL weekend, playoff weekend number 2 coming up. Stephen A. Until then, peace and love.